need a mountain either to have that kind of moment. And I'm going to use an illustration from a film which you may or may not have seen. It's called The Matrix. Anyone familiar? A few people. You might remember that our hero, Neo, starts off with a really, really bad day. Things get really weird very fast. And he meets someone called Morpheus, and Morpheus gives him a choice between taking a blue pill and a red pill. The blue pill, he's told, will put him to sleep and allow him to wake up back in his old life as if nothing has ever happened, and he'll be able to rationalize everything that's gone on as a dream. Or he can take the red pill, and in Morpheus's words, see just how deep the rabbit hole goes. I imagine the disciples feel something like that, an Alice in Wonderland moment for them when they see Jesus transfigured before their eyes. Neo is afraid of waking up to the truth, and so are the disciples. The real world is nothing like Neo could have imagined, and it's not particularly pleasant. It requires him to make great sacrifices and go through terrible pain and suffering, and also learn and experience great joy. And like another character says later in the film to Neo, bet you wish you'd taken the blue pill now, huh? I can see the disciples saying the same thing. How did we ever get involved with this guy? Mountains are also traditionally the place where heaven meets earth. Theologically speaking, the human-divine encounter, which means a place where God and human beings meet and things get decidedly wacky. It's how the disciples take their red pill, how they wake up to the truth. The Greeks had Mount Olympus, where the gods lived in splendor. The Israelites had Mount Sinai, where Moses had his Charlton Heston moment and was given the Ten Commandments. But here's the thing. In all of these stories, it's only the exceptional person who makes the trip from the ground below to the mountaintop to meet with the gods. If you remember, in the Moses story, he had to wear a veil after he met with God's presence. Otherwise, the Israelites were too afraid of him because of his radiant and shining face. What do you think they saw in that radiant, shining face that made them so afraid? Maybe what they saw was the profound change in Moses that had happened through being in God's presence in that really intimate way. Now I have to say, this is all pretty extraordinary stuff that I'm talking about. Not only do we have the intense light show, God's voice thundering in and clouds appearing, but also Jesus appearing with Moses and Elijah, which is a little like a current presidential candidate being seen shaking hands with Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Keep that in your mind. And I worked really hard on that. Really hard. I said to my husband, I said, who's Elijah and who's Moses here? Abraham Lincoln and JFK. I don't know which one's which. It's pretty mind-blowing. Not only are they dead, which probably leads Peter to, I can't help this, say something like, I see dead people. But it's pretty pretty darn obvious that this makes Jesus the chosen one in capital letters. You can't get any louder than this. And yet today, I don't want to concentrate so much on that as on the really ordinary event that happens in the midst of it. When the disciples looked at Jesus, transformed with divine light shining through him, when they heard that voice saying, "This is my beloved, listen to him," I might suggest to you that they remembered Jesus' teachings. They remembered their travels with him, and in that moment they understood as well as seeing. It was similar to what the Israelites saw in Moses. When they looked at Christ, they knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were looking at the face of God, which is impossible. And yet there it was. And not only in that, but in Jesus' face, they saw their friend, their teacher, a human being. They saw their own face staring back at them. They saw not only the divine, but their own humanity in Jesus reflected back at them, full of the inner brilliance and radiant divine light. What a moment. Wow. Talk about mind-blowing. To look into the face of God and see your own features reflected back, along with the features of every other human being that's ever been or will be. Take a moment. Ponder